Welcome to the Bourbon Friday Show. We are here talking business and bourbon. I'm your host, Nick Niehaus, and I'm excited to be talking to Raj Singh, who is the co-founder and CEO of Connexio, which is a recent Arch Grants winner, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
That's awesome.
it.
And you guys are like just a little bit over a year old, so that was pretty fast.
Yeah, about 13 months, so not a whole lot long.
That is awesome. So is that a pretty big contribution to the business growth, or?
Definitely. I think our business is inherently international, just from day one. So getting this money and the support of the network would definitely help us to grow in the right direction.
Well, that's awesome. I'm sure that helps very early on like this. So
yeah.
Well, I want to get into talking about Connexio, obviously. So just start with like a quick overview of the company.
Right. So Connexio is a marketplace for international students and universities to find each other.
Cool.
Right now, this whole process is marred by brokers and agents in the system.
Okay.
So imagine with me with a student who is in Nepal and wants to come to the US.
Gotcha.
Now she's got to go and pay money to this broker in her city to get third-hand guidance.
Wow. Okay.
And then a university from the US would actually go and pay the same broker to route that student to their school. So this broker is actually making money and it's not working out well for the student.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what we are doing is we're taking this middleman out of the picture by giving students AI-driven mobile app, which acts as a personalized advisor.
Oh, really?
So all they got to do is get onto the app, right? Create their profile, and the app basically takes them from step one, which is probably how to get a passport made.
Okay.
Right? To step 50, for example, which is once you're on the campus, what are the best practices?
Really? Okay. So that's quite a bit to handle through an app, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah, it is. But we've gone through the process ourselves. I came to the US as an international student.
Okay. So this is a personal experience.
It is a personal experience. Yeah, it's a personal experience because you're giving money to somebody who's never done that journey himself.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right, so these
brokers is there to make money in the middle,
that's what it is. They probably just download information from Google and would give it to you for a bit of money. And that information is usually inaccurate because their motive is, how do I get you routed to the school that is paying them?
Ah, okay.
Right?
So they're not really serving the customer.
No.
They're serving their own pocketbook.
That's how it works right now.
So how did it get to that point? Is it just because information was hard to access, years ago, and they kind of became that middleman information-wise, or? Yeah.
So I think the market started to evolve about 30 years ago.
Okay.
And because there was no Google, some people could not actually find the right information.
Sure.
So they would go to these people who would then be, the flagship areas for these campuses.
Okay.
Right. So you would go to this person and he'll say, oh yeah, I manage reputation of these 3 or 4 universities in India or Nepal or in some other country, right?
Gotcha.
And you would get information from them. Now, Google came in and things started to change. But what Google does well is it gives you general information really, really well.
Sure.
Right? But when you are looking for educational opportunities, that's not general information that you're looking for.
Specifics there. Yeah.
You want to answer questions that are very, very important to you, your child, right? Mm-hmm. And that is where Google fails.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? And these people fail as well. So what now people are resorting to is forums. And forums usually act as echo chambers because negative vibes actually get more resonance than the positive ones, right? And we hear students still struggling with the same answers, like, does my profile actually fit for MIT, or can I get into Harvard? And that information is hard to come by. For example, UIUC, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, on their page would say, we do not require GRE scores.
Okay.
But their requirement for GRE scores is one of the tops because it's one of the most selective schools.
Okay.
So we talk to students and they come to us and they're like, yeah, UCI does not, or UIUC does not require GRE scores. And we have to make them realize that that's not the case. Yes, for some students, that might be the case, right?
Yeah.
But that's a very, very, just a very small selection out of the whole spectrum.
Gotcha.
Everyone else needs the scores to actually make it through the funnel.
Interesting. So why does this end up happening, right? Because you would think nowadays with the ability to share information as freely as we can, that they would be able to get more specific. So is it a matter of like, are the schools just being lazy about the information they're sharing, or is it just a confusing process? I mean, why aren't they getting that information currently?
So what we've heard from the students is that step one is always the hardest.
Okay.
Because if I'm an international student, I've never been to the US, I don't know where to start.
That's fair, yeah.
Right? I could go onto Google and then, search for US universities, because that's what I would know. And then I would basically be getting onto these websites that act as, online directories.
Okay.
Right? Generating leads for these universities.
Yeah.
Right? So I go on and I say, this university looks good, and I'll put in my email address, and that email address then gets to a particular school.
Sure.
Right? So that is confusing for the students. On top of that, and this is just, I don't have data to support this, but this is what I feel is going on, that universities don't want to put in their scores because they get a lot of applications.
Okay.
And they become more selective.
Okay.
And as they become more selective, they get higher into the rankings on US News. Right.
Seems kind of like a flawed system.
That's what it is.
Gotcha.
But they're playing with the system. The system that they've gotten. The more selective you are, it's one of the variables. Right.
Of course.
It's one of the variables. So that's I think what they're trying to play with.
Interesting. So it sounds like the whole system is kind of broken in a way.
Right. And you can't blame them. International students bring in a ton of revenue.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
because they pay full tuition in a lot of cases.
Oh yeah. They pay double the tuition fee that you as a domestic student would.
Wow.
Right, which is a lot. So I'll give you some numbers around this. So last year, 1 million students studied in the US, international students.
Sure.
And they brought in $40 billion US.
Whoa, okay.
For every 7 international students that study in the US, they generate 3 jobs that year.
Really? Okay.
So if there are 1 million students there, right, you can just count how many jobs they're supporting with all the money that they're bringing.
So hundreds of thousands of jobs. Yeah.
Right. So there's a ton of jobs. And now what's happening is that the whole world is realizing the need for these international students.
Okay.
Because the industry wants them, right? So the schools feel, okay, well, if the industry wants them, then we might be able to actually just route them through us and make some money as we're doing it.
Interesting. Okay.
So the competition's just gone up. US was one of the top choices, and now Canada, Australia, New Zealand are, getting higher on the picture.
Catching up a little bit, huh?
They are.
Well, and if I understand this correctly too, I mean, when students come over here, there's also a tendency for a lot of them to stay and drive our economic growth in the U.S., right? So do you have any stats on that in terms of kind of the impact of international students?
So I don't have stats on that, but I do want to mention it on this platform that the process of moving from an F1 visa to an H1B, which is a work visa, is super hard.
Okay.
It's super hard. So I'll give you some stats.
So now it's getting harder to stay, is what you're kind of saying.
Oh yeah, it's very hard to stay, right? Because what happens is, there are these 1 million students that come in, right? And we'll just do this rough numbers.
Sure.
1 million students come into the country every year. USCIS, that actually dictates how many H1Bs they're going to give out. They give out 80,000 H1Bs.
Okay.
Right? So the quota, the funnel basically just narrows down right there.
Sure, that's pretty limiting. Yeah.
Right? So now when these students start to apply, they're not just competing amongst each other, but they're also competing against the companies that are hiring H1B employees from other countries.
Oh, sure.
Right? So if a company XYZ wants to bring in people from India for their IT support, they'll be filing for H1Bs as well. So for these 80,000 positions, they get 250,000 applications.
Oh my gosh, wow.
So for every single H1B visa, there are 3 people competing. And it's a lottery system. It does not matter.
Oh, it is?
It is a lottery system.
Totally random, huh?
It is a total random system. So it does not matter if you graduated out of MIT, you'd still be competing against that person who's coming from another country.
Gotcha.
Who's not supported the economy.
Yeah, you would think you'd support the students first, right?
Absolutely. And there's just nothing there to support them.
Wow.
And it's harder for doctors because they have to go through all this. And I would feel that doctors spend 18 hours, 20 hours a day doing this. They should get some sort of a preference.
Right. Yeah.
But they don't. Everyone is counted towards the cap, towards that 80,000 cap.
Wow.
Exactly the same way.
I love hearing about American government systems that don't make any sense. It's always fun,
it's
right?
old. I think
out of date more than anything.
It is.
Right?
It is out of date, and I think our government should definitely look at the economic impact that these students are bringing to the country.
Yeah.
Right? And make it easier, at least for them to actually get an opportunity of working here and, for a few more years.
Sure.
Before they have to head back to their own countries.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I want to ask you a little bit about the tech behind Connexio, right? Because I think, obviously this kind of information exchange is a big part of it, but you mentioned several things that sound like pretty complex and, a lot to kind of analyze and also very personalized, right? Because every person's got different things they're dealing with. So you mentioned AI, so I just wanted to ask you a little bit about, how does the platform work? How do you make sure you're giving the right information to the right people here?
So right now we're training the engine, right? So my co-founder Satya, who's an AI expert, at least for me, because I don't know anything about it. So he's built that engine and we're training it. The way we are training it is we have advisors who would actually give personal advice to the students now. And our engine goes and captures that and sees, right, what is the best advice in what sort of a scenario. So we are building profiles for each student, right, which would then tell them which universities they match with and then take them through that very, very specific route of information that makes them successful overall.
Cool, that makes sense. Yeah. So basically, you're taking, kind of the current process of one-on-one advising,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but learning that and teaching it to an algorithm. It sounds like.
Yeah. And all that advising actually comes from personal experiences. So we don't have people who are sitting offshore who've never actually experienced this. These are real people who've gone through that process. So we go and talk to a lot of students. Right. If you go to our website, you'll see a lot of interviews from students who are currently students here or have gone through the process themselves, right? And these are the people who actually put together the database for us.
Gotcha. Okay. That's great. Okay. Well, so the next question, the important thing here is if somebody wants to sign up to use this, if they're a student, because there's kind of a two-sided part to this, right? There's the schools and there's students. So let's start with the students. How do they get involved? Is it an app that they get on or what do they do?
So we have a mobile app and we started with an Android version of it because outside the US, 80% of the people actually use Android.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's on the Google Play Store. We'd be launching soon on the iOS. But right now, what the student has to do is simply get on, register, go through, answering a few questions. And we start matching them with universities. They don't have to figure out if they actually have a good match with a particular school or not. They can search for a school if it's not shown up in the top 10. And they'll figure out if they have a good profile match with them or not.
Gotcha.
Very
cool.
And then after that, once they get matched, they start seeing information from the universities, right? Because we show them in the feed that, updates from the schools. And they also start getting help on all the steps that they need to follow after that.
Cool. Sounds easy enough.
Yeah, well, yes. Sounds easy,
yeah.
right?
For them, maybe. I mean,
for them, they are. It is, right? For Satya,
he's got a bigger challenge.
Yes, sure, absolutely. And on the flip side, on the university side, we decided from day one that we are not going to sell students to universities.
Good.
I know it just sounds very crude, but we're not going to make money off of pushing students to particular schools.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? We are a data and a tech company, and that's what we're going to use. So what we are doing is, as the students use the app, right, and sort their schools, right, all that information gets gathered and gets sent back to the schools that they're matched with.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? So think of it as a dating site.
Sure.
Where both sides can actually, look at each other and see if they actually have a good fit.
Cool.
And go further than that.
So for the schools, is it just kind of like a membership model?
Yes.
Okay.
The schools pay a subscription fee to be on our platform.
Cool.
They don't need to do anything because they're already doing a lot of stuff. So we don't act as a CRM system. We get bolt on to their current systems that they have and start pushing information to them.
Oh, sounds straightforward.
Yes. For them it is.
Again, not behind the scenes. Of course,
no, absolutely not.
It's usually how it works, right?
Yes.
The easier it is on the user end, the harder it is to build, right?
Yes,
so
it is.
Very cool. Well, I love it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense why you guys want an Arch grant.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
That's great. So last question for you then. I know you mentioned that there's the app. So if the students are looking, they can go on the app. If the schools want to sign up or if somebody just wants more information about your company, do they go to a website or where should they check you out?
So just the website. We have a specific page for the universities. It's connexio.io /university. You should be able to find all the information on there, and that's the easiest way to get in touch with us. We are starting our pilot program in February for the universities. So we'd be more than happy to sign anyone who's interested.
All right, sounds great. Cool. Well, Raj, we got a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
So that means we're going to shift gears a little bit. We've been sipping on this bourbon here, and we got to find out what it is.
Pretty strong, yeah.
Yeah, so I know, right? Eric's going to join us, and he is. So I don't know if you know Eric, but he is the founder. Obviously, you know Eric, right? But he's the founder of Bourbon Friday, and he always selects a different bourbon, and he has a story for us. He's going to tell us why he picked this one.
And why it is so strong. You got to tell me
why
that
it
too.
is so strong is because it's bourbon. So as we were talking a little bit before the show, like India is not necessarily what you think of when you think of whiskey, but in fact, 4 of the top 5 whiskeys sold in the world are made in India.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And many of the top 25 are as well. So,
wow.
So, but not necessarily that. This was actually, I picked this out, and this is Michter's US 1 bourbon. And the reason I picked this out is because last year, a guy named Sukhinder Singh asked the president of Michter's if he could get a bottle for a charity donation. And they did, he got it, and it was released. And how did this guy get that bottle? Well, Sukhinder and his brother Rajbir have a online store, and they started this store back in 1999 during the internet boom. This store is called the Whiskey Exchange. It is one of the largest online spirits stores in the world. They have, their turnover is 50 million pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah, per year. So they
That's a lot of whiskey.
that's a lot of whiskey. They're selling about 40 to 50,000 bottles a month.
Wow.
So this guy is huge in the whiskey world. He started it right at the right time. Entrepreneur of Indian descent. His parents actually were the first, I believe, the first Indians to have a off-premises liquor store in London.
Got it.
And when they wanted to retire, they started this. They reconfigured this brand and started the Whiskey Exchange.
Wow.
That's how they retired?
Yes, and that's how they retired. And so that bottle was a 22-year-old bottle of Michter's that had never been released before.
Wow.
And it sold for $17,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
We're going to have that on the show?
ever. We will not. That is a few years worth of budget for whiskey.
Down the road, maybe.
I'm just going to save this one. Maybe this will go for 5,000 later on.
Just that glass, I don't
Like
know.
how much later on?
Cover it.
Successful. If you get really famous, that might be worth it.
That might,
someday,
yeah.
you know?
So I'm saving this, guys, for whenever.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, I love the story, Eric, and I like the bourbon. I don't. It's not the strongest bourbon we had on here, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some
last
great
week
stuff on
was
here. Yeah, we're
30 proof higher. So
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, Eric, we got a couple minutes left. We got some events coming up.
We do, but there are no events that I could find next week involving the startup community.
Oh, well, it makes sense. Holidays, right?
So go out there, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Of
course.
A little bit further out, we have on December 4th, the St. Louis Regional Chamber Diverse Business Accelerator final pitch at the Regional Chamber. It's going to be happening, and they're going to be competing for a $10,000 prize. The keynote is, I think it's Ariane Simone. She's a serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, angel investor, author, and like a PR specialist. I saw there was a bunch of articles from homeless to Hollywood. So she was in dire straits, and she turned her life around through entrepreneurship.
That's great.
And then on Thursday, we have TEDx Gateway Arch, and they have the Bold and Brilliant Women event at the Ferrara Theater at America Center. This is going to be, of course, TED Talks, and there's going to be a couple musical performances. And Tashara Jones, who we had on a few weeks ago, she is going to be talking about the children's savings accounts and what they're working on there.
Cool.
And then Friday is a big day, December 6th. There's going to be Filament Friday. If you don't know what that is, it's this creative mix of networking, co-working, problem solving, a show and tell, happy hour for irregular people. Not sure what that means, but basically it's for people that would rather just sort of hang out, share ideas, maybe help each other figure out problems, rather than just like trade business cards.
All right.
Because
sounds interesting.
We don't do the business card trading here either.
Not really.
So it does sound pretty interesting. Then also we're going to be here back at Kobo for another great Bourbon Friday. We're going to have Eric Laurent from Rue Storage. And they are also a recent Arch Grant winner. They are basically an Airbnb of storage. So they've created a platform to help connect people that have space and that need space. And I was actually more interested in talking about them for personal stuff. And like, I've got some stuff in a storage unit. I got a storage unit. If I could save some money.
There you go.
And I talked to them at Startup Connection, and now they're going to be on the show. And then that same night after Bourbon Friday is the Kobo and the Downtown Neighborhood Association holiday party.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So perfect. We can just go from here right into that. And then also that night, we did mention it on the live broadcast from the Art of Alcohol event when Dave was on from Still 630. That's also First Friday. So you could go over there too.
So
there's a ton of things.
3 events in a row.
There you go.
Yeah. Not be totally drunk at the end.
Yeah,
You'd be good.
Yeah,
well,
you're gonna have a good time that night.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good night.
Cool. Well, sounds like some good stuff. That's not next week, but the following.
Correct.
Obviously.
Yeah,
So
we're not on. There'll probably be this show.
we'll air the episode, but we will not be
we
recording.
will be
So
on
that
holiday.
week you're talking about is when we probably won't have an episode, right? Because we're a week behind.
I mean, we'll probably release the Art of Alcohol event as of that episode.
Okay, so we'll have something.
Yeah.
That day. Cool. All right. Well, good stuff as always, Eric. Raj, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Great conversation.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, happy
Appreciate
to.
it. Thank you.
And for those of you tuning in, we do want to thank a couple organizations and people for always supporting us. So thank you so much to Kobo for hosting both the event and the show every single week. I want to thank EQ for distributing the show and helping us spread our audience and the message of the show. And finally, I want to thank Ian Brown for helping us set up behind the scenes and running things every single week for us. Really appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. And again, we will see you in this case 2 weeks from now for the next Bourbon Friday show.
Hey, thanks for watching. We truly hope you enjoyed it. Please like and share this episode. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. To stay up to date, follow us on social. We are at Bourbon Fridays on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. See you next time.